Hello. Today, I want to talk to you about It's Your Story. And I know that I started doing videos maybe like over a year ago, or a year and a half ago maybe. And then I stopped because I got in my head about some things that was going on, and I started telling myself a story. And I know that most of my life, it's like I've been on this search for who I was, for truth, whatever truth looked like. Because I grew up in a family that only thing I knew about was religion, about church, about religion, and about this God that punished people if you didn't follow certain rules and things like that. And so I kind of grew up with being confused about a lot of things, because I really wanted to know what truth was. And I just felt like, as I grew up and went through life, that at one point in my life, that it had to be more to life than what I was living, what I was seeing, what I was believing, because I wasn't happy. And I remember coming home one evening, and I sat on a little trunk in front of my bed, and I remember thinking, if Happy slapped me in the face, I wouldn't know what it was. And it had nothing to do with money, because I had everything that I wanted. I had a job, a good job, making decent money, and I had, like I said, everything I wanted. I traveled, and was doing some things, but I knew, it just like I still felt like something was missing, and I didn't know what it was, and I remember thinking it's because of what I'm believing. And so, I started to examine and look at my beliefs, because most of our beliefs come from our families, our environment, from school, from different places. And even though sometimes those beliefs can cause us much anguish, we still carry them. But not only do we carry those beliefs, but we carry a story along with those beliefs. A story about who we are, what we are, how we fit in or don't fit in. But most of it's about us. About us. And like, as a life coach, and I've been working with hundreds of people, women, teenagers, children, youth, I would hear all kinds of stories. I mean, sometimes my whole day I would just sit and hear stories about what happened to me, or who I think I am, or how I feel about myself, or about my life. And what I started to see was it's stories. And so, like I said, it was like every day I just sat and listened to stories. And it helped me recognize that every day you wake up with a story. And if I say, "How you doing today, John?" and you'd be like, "Well, I'm doing good." It's because you're telling yourself a good day story. And most of the time we tell ourselves a story, we have reasons, well, my day's going great because, I woke up and this happened and that happened and that happened. And the same thing if it's a bad day story, or, if I ask, people, they would come in and talk about their relationships, because that's what I dealt mostly with, was relationships. And, well, my relationship, is this, and somebody's doing this to me, and that and the other, but like I said, I started to see a pattern. And what I started to see was that you create your life through your story. And sometimes we don't even recognize that we're telling a story. And like I said, intertwined in with that story is beliefs. Anytime we encounter anybody in relationship, we carrying our story, we carrying our beliefs. We carrying our beliefs about, what a relationship should look like, what we should look like, what somebody else should look like. We also carry judgment. We carry so many things with us. But all of it is intertwined in a story. We have projecting stories, which we try to project into the future. And a lot of our stories is based on our past. Most of them, as a matter of fact, is based on the past, on things that happened to us, and beliefs that we picked up, promises that we made, and for example, I remember, my best friend died when she was 13. She had cancer. And I was a kid and I really didn't understand. She had leukemia and I really didn't understand too much about that. But what I do know is that I never really had a best friend after that for a long time. And I always wanted a best friend. And I always had people around, and people always loved being around me and talk to me because I was the party girl. It's like, we gonna have a party, let's go get married, yeah, because she gonna party with us, and it's kind of like, you in a room full of people, but you still feel alone. And even though people talking to you, they interacting with you, everybody used to talk to me, interact with me, but deep down inside, I just always felt alone, or lonely, like I was by myself, like nobody cared about me. I don't know where that feeling came from. Now I do, but back then I didn't, because I was telling myself, I had a belief, and I made a promise, and I was telling myself a story about that. And it was an incident that occurred when I was a child, and I'd forgotten about this incident. I didn't even remember, because it's things it's things you don't know, but it's things you don't even know that you don't know that's running your life. And sometimes it's things that we do know, because like I talk to a lot of my clients, and I'll say, well, this is going on and that's going on. They'll be like, I know it. But it's still, for some reason, they want things to be different, but they're not. And they a lot of people just settle with, unhappiness with, this is just the way life is, I'm supposed to be this way, and, and they go in with the suffering story and all that other stuff. But like I said, it's all a story. But anyway, I remember taking a seminar, because like I said, I've been, searching for a long time, because it was just this emptiness that I felt. I didn't know where it was or where it came from. Like, it was just there. And like I said, people tried to get close. But I would never let them. I would only deal in superficial relationships. And I'm sure a lot of people know what I'm talking about. But it doesn't matter. Anyway, and so, like I said, I went to this seminar, and it was called The Design Pattern of a Human Being, because I'd always been interested in human beings and human nature and how people act and thought. For some reason, I've just always been interested in that. And so as we sat there, it was this intense weekend where somebody was on the stage talking, and people would get up and share. And all of a sudden, somebody got up and shared something. And all of a sudden, it just felt like a ton of bricks just fell on my head. And I just saw myself as a little girl when this incident occurred, and I made a promise, and some people call it a vow, and I said I'll never trust anybody as long as I live. Maybe, and I think maybe I was about 8 or 9 years old. And when I saw that, it was just like, wow. So all this time in my life, I've been going around, like I said, and I wanted friends and I wanted to get close to people, and I had people that I interacted with, on a daily basis. My godson's mother, her and I, we would hang out all the time. We would, talk, and she, they would spend the night. I would go over there. We would hang out, weekly. But I still felt distant. I still never felt, that close. And I saw, and that's what it was. I had made this promise as an 8 or 9 year old because of something that occurred, that I would never trust anybody. And so I'm carrying this promise out and didn't even know that I was carrying it out. But the one thing about that is that once you discover a belief, a story, or a vow, because it was a story behind it, because the story was, well, people, you can't trust people. If I can't trust my family, because it was something that happened in my family. If I can't trust my family, then I can't trust anybody. But once I discovered that, I could let it go. And I now have, very good friends. Very good and healthy relationships. But like I said, for years, I didn't. Fast forward, and I still, feel like, something's wrong with me. I'm working on things. Because a lot of us, we walk around and we feel flawed, or we feel, I hear a lot of people say, well, I'm broken. But broken is a story too. It's like, in one of my videos, I talked about mental illnesses, and I've worked with a lot of mentally ill, clients, and people weren't born with a mental illness. Have you ever seen a child that was antisociative disorder, or schizophrenic, which is a fear, a fear-based disorder? Or the big one is bipolar. I'm bipolar. I have my highs and lows. Children, you are not born that way. Those things are created. We create mental illnesses through the things that have happened to us, and the stories that we've made up, and the beliefs that we carry with those stories. And if you can really understand that and see that, you can free yourself and you can have a different life. Because the problem with stories and the stories that we have in our life is, and like I said, because it's things we know, it's things you don't know, but it's things you don't even know. They don't have an ending. Like for years, my story of, I can't trust anybody, it didn't have an ending. They keep you trapped, living in a self-imposed prison, a prison that you don't even want to be in. I know so many people that's just looking for relationships, or people that's in relationships but they lonely and they unhappy, they feel unfulfilled, whatever that looks like to them. But I'm here to tell you that it's because of a story, and a story tied to a belief, or a belief tied to a story. And if you can understand that, because I know with me, I have to see myself. I have to see my story. I have to see my belief. Then I can free myself. And then I can really and truly be myself. Because some of us are slaves to our stories. Because in the story, most of the time in the story, you got a villain, you got a victim, you got a hero, you got characters in the story. So you have to look and see, what character are you playing in your stories? And is that story giving you what you want? Is it benefiting you in any way? You have that peace, that joy, that love, that freedom, that happiness, whatever it is that you're looking for? Do you see the beauty in life? I'm so grateful, that just God has blessed me to discover so many of my stories and so many of my beliefs. But like I said, the problem with so many stories is they have no ending. Even in a fairy tale, you get the money, you get the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. The princess ride off with the prince. They live happily ever after. You kill the villain. You become the hero. But our stories don't carry those characteristics. Because sometimes we stuck in our stories. We stuck in our beliefs. I mean, I talk to so many people even now, and they'll be like, well, I'm married and I'm in this marriage, and I'm not happy, and my husband is he drinks and he hits me. But, well, if you made a vow, you're supposed to stick to it. Or he forces me to have sex with him and this and that. Well, but he's my husband. You're supposed to submit to your husband. All these stories and all these beliefs that, it's causing people so much pain, so much anguish. Or people that are single, I just want a partner, or I just want this. But then, they meet somebody and they get, they get into that story, and then it doesn't happen. And you start to blame it on yourself because there's something wrong with me. Like I said, I'm broken, I'm flawed, I need to do this, or I did. And it's all just a story. None of it is true. Remember I said you create your life through your story. And until recently, I've heard it, and I kind of gotten the concept, and I knew it was, I was like, okay, but I really didn't get it in a way until recently when I went to a retreat. And during this retreat, man, I saw how this one it was about beliefs, and I discovered this one belief that I didn't even believe that this belief was mine. I was talking to a client of mine, and the client was telling me, about, she wanted this relationship, but it seemed like she could never have it, and all these things. And I said, well, the reason why you can't this relationship doesn't happen for you, or this doesn't happen for you, is because you don't believe you can have what you want, and I was talking to her. But when I went to the retreat, and my teacher was going around, and she was, she had all these signs on the wall, about beliefs, and she said pick out one that resonates with you. And the one I picked out that resonated with me was the beliefs you hold are holding you back. Because I knew that my beliefs, or whatever it is what was holding me back. It was keeping me from being totally free. And so, when she went around to each of us, and when she got to me, she said, well, what when I told her what, the sign that resonated with me, she said, well, what is one of your beliefs? And I was, I said, I didn't know. I don't know. And then she said, well, think about it. And then what popped into my head was that statement that you can't have what you want. And I said, well, just, because if you want to really be free and discover who you are, and to be happy and whole and complete, you have to be honest. And that's what popped in my head. And I said, well, that's what popped in my head, was that I can't have what I want. And she said, well, how's that relation? I said, I don't know. But it's just what popped in my head. She said, just sit with it. And so that's what I did. And it's like how sometimes we hear that um, when you have a belief, it infiltrates through your entire life. It's just not in that one area. It's like for the example of if I don't trust. It's like I don't just trust people. I don't trust them. I don't trust. If you say you don't trust anything. You don't trust that your life's gonna be this way or this is gonna happen. You just don't trust. Period. So just understanding that. So I remember later on that evening, we were going to lunch, and we had all our meals were on the table when we got in. We just we would just go in and eat. We had salads at that particular time, and so I remember like going in, looking at the salads at the table, and I was going to sit in that chair, and I was like, nah, I'm gonna sit over there because that lettuce looked a little bit more fluffier. So I sat in that chair. A lady sat across from me. And then a guy, he came and sat in the other chair. So we stirring our salads up, they stirring theirs up, and all I had in my salad was one raspberry and what looked like a piece of a tomato or a grape, because it was only a half. And I'm just stirring, I'm like looking, I'm like, Dad, so I looked at his salad. He had raspberries, tomatoes, grapes, seeds. I mean, he had so many. He was putting them in his yogurt. And I looked at the other lady. She had sunflower seeds. I mean, she had so many raspberries. She was pushing them off to the side. And I'm stirring in my salad, and I'm looking. I'm like, I had one raspberry, and like I said, it would look like. And I was like, this can't be. So I'm just eating it. I'm like, man. And then I'm looking over at other people. I'm like, Dad, they got this. They got that. They got this. I mean, they got all this stuff in their salads. And I'm just eating, trying to scrape them. And scraping up the yogurt because I'm trying to get full. Because like I said, all I had in my salad was one raspberry and a grape. And I remember going back into the seminar. I mean, into the retreat room. And then we sit down. And then our teacher, she started talking. And then all of a sudden, I mean, it just hit me, and I just started crying, and couldn't stop crying. And I saw how that belief came back to me. I can't have what I want. It was me. It was a belief I had that I didn't even know that I had. And the other part of that belief was, I can't have what I want, but everybody else can. And what I also saw was how this belief had affected me in every area of my life. And I just couldn't stop crying. I was like, wow. Literally. And behind that belief was a story. Because it was something wrong with me. I was a bad person, or I was this, I was that, because of this things that happened when I was a child. I didn't believe this and I was supposed to, and all those things. I mean, and I saw it in my relationships, in my finances, in my health, in my diet. I can't eat I created a dis-ease in my body where I can't eat the foods I want. I don't have the money that I want. I didn't have the money that I want anymore. I mean, it was, oh my God, it was so profound. Like I said, I just could not stop crying. I was like, wow. I mean, and I'm just talking to you and telling you this because, I mean, I just see so many people that, just they reaching, they grabbing, and they trying to be happy and pretending happy. I mean, sometimes they may be happy, but deep down inside, they empty, they got a hole, they feel like, like something is missing or like there's something wrong with them. I mean, I can go on and on and on, but I mean, when I saw that, I was like, like, wow. Belief in a story. How your life is your story. My story of I can't have what I want, but everybody else can. Because I remember, some years ago discovering, some beliefs that I had. That I'm not good enough. I don't matter. Just stuff that just don't even make sense now. Because as a kid, you don't know. Like I said, a lot of times I see grown-ups and I be like, maybe they may be chronologically grown, but they still a child, have those childish beliefs. And I'm not saying that to diminish anybody, but when I say childish, because it was a belief that you made when you were, that you had, or you grasped when you were a child and you thought as a child. Because even like the Bible say, when I was a child, I think as a child, I spoke as a child, and I act as a child. But then when I became a man, I put away childish things. But sometimes we don't know that we're carrying those childish things, those beliefs, and then those stories that we create. And then a lot of times what we do too is we try to blame it. We don't want to take responsibility. I'm like this because my mother, or what my father did, or my mother did, or my family. All those others. I mean, it's stories. You have layers of stories. I mean, and this right here, I'm just touching the surface, because I'm gonna go deeper into this, because I don't want to keep this going too long. Like I said, you become a slave to that story. And you don't even realize that you have those stories or those beliefs. But like I said, St. Francis of Assisi, he said, what you're looking for is already in the place you're looking from. And I know it's a lot of people out there just searching, and they looking for something. They saying it's got to be more, and they looking for it. But your answer is in your story that's intertwined with your beliefs, with a belief. I said your life is in your story. And it's different levels of stories, because what it is we have a belief when we're a child. Because I remember people like I would talk to clients, and I remember I had a client in particular. She was a heavy lady. She was 300 plus pounds. She was only 22 years old. And she told me a story about when she was growing up, she was in foster care and they wouldn't feed her. She would have to scrape and eat bread and eat Roman noodles all the time, and she promised herself that when she became an adult, I'm going to eat whatever I want. And that's all she did was eat. She couldn't stop herself. But it was a story. See, because sometimes you got to remember, I'm not that child anymore. I'm an adult now. I'm in control of myself. See, when you were a child, you couldn't control things. Somebody else was in charge of you. But as an adult, you're in control of your life. And like I said, it's a lot of us, we looking for truth. We searching for a lot of things. But truth is in your story. And something came to me last week, because like I said, with my meditation teacher, boy, she asked you something, you give her, that's a story. That's not the truth. That's the story. And I'm like, dang, everything is story. So I wouldn't say I stopped talking. And so then she come back with something. But then when I was walking one day, and like I said, because I've been looking for truth for a long time, and it came to me, truth has no story. See, you will know that you live in the truth when it has no story. It's just like when something happened, it happened to you, and it elicits some type of emotion, then you know that it's something there. It's a belief there. It's a story. That's one key to knowing that you in a story. She made me angry. Your story made you angry. Or somebody's doing this to me. No, your story's doing that to you. And that's what I want you to get, from this, is that it's your story. And like I said, when you get to the truth, Truth has no story. Even the Bible says, you're going to know the truth and the truth going to make you free. Because your story is what keep you trapped. Your beliefs are what keep you trapped. But truth has no story. It can stand by itself. It doesn't need an explanation. And that's what I'm going to leave you with today. And like I said, I'm Dr. Mary Williams. Helping other people evolve through heart talks. Because you have to get to the heart of the matter. Because the heart matters. Because out of it flows your life. And I'm going to leave you with this. Something I want to read to you. It's called The Tater People. Some people never seem motivated to participate, but are just content to watch while others do the work. They are called spectators. Some people never do anything to help, but are gifted at finding fault with the way others do the work. They are called commentators. Some people are very bossy and like to tell others what to do, but don't want to soil their own hands. They are called dictators. Some people are always looking to cause problems. It's too hot or too cold, too sour or too sweet. They are called agitators. And there are those who they will help, but just never get around to actually doing the promised help. There are those who say they will help, but just never get around to actually doing the promised help. They are called hesitators. Some people can put up a front and pretend to be someone they are not. They are called imitators. Then there are those who love others and are always prepared to stop, lend a helping hand. They bring real sunshine into the lives of others, and they are called sweet-taters. So I want to say, have a wonderful day.